Political candidates' speeches are loaded with promises and with expressions of good intention. Yeah, that makes sense. But one must not forget that the politician's purpose in giving these speeches is to get themselves elected. Okay, so they're saying a lot of good things, and they're saying it because they want to get elected. So far, so good? Clearly, then, these speeches are selfishly motivated, and the promises made in them are unreliable. So this last sentence is the conclusion. What's the test when you're looking at a conclusion to decide whether the argument is good or bad? Does the conclusion have to be true given what was said in the premises? Does it have to be true that these speeches are selfishly motivated? Does someone who says things with the purpose of getting elected have to be selfishly motivated?
Yes.
No. I know. Think about it though for a second, right? What if your goal is to get elected? Does that make your speech selfishly motivated? Could you be trying to be elected for some unselfish reason?
Yeah.
Yeah, it never happens, but it's possible. Right? There are like 3 politicians in the history of the world. Does it have to be true that the promises made in them are unreliable?
No.
No. You could be a person who still keeps your promises even though you were doing it to get elected.
For a good reason, maybe.
Maybe you were motivated for a good reason. Yeah, some of those 3 people out there. All right. So.
Oh, no, I meant like keeping them so you'll get reelected.
Oh, you could be doing it, yeah, so you get reelected, of course. Which one following most accurately describes the flaw? Answer choice A, the argument presumes without providing justification. That means what? What could we replace that phrase with? Does anyone remember necessarily assumes? So whenever you see presumes without providing justification or takes for granted that, you can replace it with necessarily assumes. So, does it absolutely have to be assumed that if a person's promise is not selfishly motivated, then that promise is reliable? What's wrong with this answer choice? We're not talking about a situation in which a person's promise is not selfishly motivated. We're talking about a situation when it supposedly is selfishly motivated. So this is not talking about a situation we care about, so we don't need to make an assumption about this situation. Answer choice B. The argument presumes without providing justification. In other words, do we have to assume that promises made for selfish reasons are never kept? Was anyone tempted by this?
A little bit, yeah.
Why is this wrong?
Because never. Just as unreliable.
I don't think that's actually why it's wrong. I think that makes it worse, but I think there's a bigger issue here. Yes?
He doesn't say that they're never kept. He just says that they're unreliable.
Okay, that's what Constance was saying, but I think there's a bigger problem here. Here, yes?
They give justification. It's just bad.
No. Here's the thing. Let's look at the premises. Here's a question for you guys. Were these promises selfishly made?
No, they're made in selfishly motivated speeches.
Okay. How about were these speeches selfishly motivated? Emma, you say they could have been. I just want to know, as for a fact, were these speeches selfishly motivated? Paul, you're saying yes? Okay, how many people? Yes, they were selfishly motivated. Paul says yes. Claire says yes. 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 How many people think they were not selfishly motivated? How many people say we don't know whether they were selfishly motivated? That's the real situation. We don't know because the only thing you have to accept on the LSAT are the premises. Emma, are you cool with this?
That's not what I said. Like saying that they could have been.
I don't remember you saying anything. Did you say something?
What? Really?
Yeah, sorry. Maybe I didn't hear you. But we don't know because the premises don't say, right?
Yeah.
Sorry if I didn't.
I'm with you.
Sorry if I didn't hear you. We don't know because the premises don't say. And so when answer choice B says the argument presumes without providing justification that promises made for selfish reasons are never kept, that's not the reasoning that this argument used. It didn't say, hey, these are selfish, therefore they won't be kept. It was, these were motivated by people who want, or these were given by people who wanted to get elected, therefore they were selfish and they won't be kept. Does that make sense? Like the selfishness and the not be kept were part of the conclusion. And so we don't need to make an assumption between those two ideas, which are both in the conclusion. Assumptions take place between premises and conclusions. You make an assumption when you think that because a premise is true, the conclusion is true. Is this like
Makes sense. I
abstract? Yeah.
still think that though that there's a huge difference between something being unreliable and never kept. Unreliable means there's a chance that one of those promises could be kept. You just can't rely when and where it'll happen.
Yeah.
Never kept means never kept.
I think so. What you're doing is you're getting rid of this answer choice because like this is not technically the same as what they're saying, which is fine. And I think that could be a problem with this answer choice. I'm just trying to point out that like on a very fundamental level, this is totally irrelevant because we don't make an assumption between selfishness and reliability or being kept or whatever. The assumption is between motivation, what was said in the premises, and the conclusion. All right, answer choice C, cause and effect. We don't talk about that. Was anyone tempted by this one? Okay. Answer choice D, the argument overlooks the fact that a promise need not be unreliable. Oh, geez, that's really wordy. Just because the person who made it had an ulterior motive for doing so. Hey, just because they had an ulterior motive, they were trying to get elected, doesn't mean that their promises will be unreliable. That is a huge assumption being made in this argument, right? So this is the right answer. Answer choice E, the argument overlooks the fact that a candidate who makes promises for selfish reasons. Answer choice E is wrong for the same reason that we just talked about for answer choice B. We don't know whether the candidates are making these for selfish reasons, making these promises, right? We only know what was said in the premises. And so answer choice E is not describing something that was happening in the argument. So I feel like this is kind of like a, maybe an advanced topic, or is it totally makes sense? Somewhat makes sense. Okay, anyways, assumptions take place, bottom line, assumptions take place between premises and conclusions, right? So when they describe assumptions or things like that, you're looking at something that happened, the thought that the person must have had to get from their premise to their argument. Okay,